I will go ahead and we'll ring us in. Good morning, everyone. It's so lovely to have so many of you back. We have quite a regular group on Wednesday mornings now, so that's really lovely. Some of you missed last week, so the new theme for the month of September is the cultivation of resilience. And so this is resilience in the sense of having the capacity to re-regulate your body, to re-regulate your breath, to find equanimity in the mind, and to have the capacity to tap into your deeper inner wisdom or intuition during times of challenge. So we will kind of trace resilience through the different koshas. Last week we focused in particular on maintaining resilience in the body through grounding and stabilizing, and being very aware when we sort of feel caught between fighting and fleeing and just giving up, and how to bounce back from that. We will continue with that today. Our focus will be very much on our energetic system today, so regulating our nervous system and really tuning into how can we re-regulate the breath, how can we recenter after we have really needed activation. And so we will explore this physically and energetically through yoga actions or yoga Kriyas. And some of you may have had my other Kriya class. And so it'll be a more active practice with then pauses to re-regulate, to practice that process of rising to the challenge, rising to the occasion, playing at your edges, and then watching how your nervous system can re-regulate itself virtually on its own, and learning to trust in that capacity to return to equanimity after challenge, after stress, really. All right, so we will start the practice though with a very nice calming breathing practice, and this is where you might need your block or your blanket depending on which you prefer. We will start on our backs in a modified bridge pose, and so the modification is that you will have a slight lift under the hips to support the sacrum so that you don't have to hold yourself up. The support is holding you up. And so I'll show this with a block under my sacrum, but you could just as well use a folded blanket at any height that's comfortable to you. And since this is supposed to be a calming, opening breathing practice, if you do use a block, use it on the lowest setting. So don't get tempted to set the block up too high. So when you are ready, and you could have a little blanket or a pillow under your head here too. When you're ready, you can come to your back, lift your hips so that you can slide your prop under them, whether it's a block or a blanket. And then just gently walk your shoulder blades underneath you a little bit so that you kind of almost feel like you're making a little tunnel between the shoulder blades for your spine, so that you're not putting your weight on the spine, on the vertebrae, but your weight is on the shoulders. And then from here, if you would like, this is much more comfortable for the back, you can walk your feet a little wider than knees distance apart and invite the knees to touch together. That way the knees are actually supporting each other and it brings a little bit more ease into the legs and into the low back. But if that's uncomfortable, you can also take any other variation of the legs that feels better to you. And then your arms are out by your side. And again, it's yogi's choice here. The idea is to make yourself physically comfortable so that you're not starting with a posture of challenge, but with a posture of ease. So for me, the most comfortable placement of my arms is at about 45 degrees. But you might find that you want your arms out this way or even up above your head. So play with those variations and see what resonates for you this morning. And maybe not be tempted to give into your habit, but really try out different orientations and see what resonates today. Once you have found the position that feels comfortable, go ahead and invite your body to really settle into that position. That might mean that you need to make little adjustments and wiggles. And then if it feels appropriate for you today, I invite you to close your eyes, or alternatively, you can bring them to half mouth. If they are at half mast, then invite a very soft gaze. You don't want a laser-like focus here in the eyes. You want a soft, calming gaze if the eyes are not closed. And then as you rest into this position, very gently begin to bear witness to how your breath is moving in and out for you today. Noticing perhaps if the breath is smooth and soft or choppy and uneven. Simply bearing witness without expectation and without judgment. Noticing perhaps the lengths of the inhalations and exhalations. Again, without expectation, without wanting for any particular length of either part of the breath, simply with curiosity, so that you become more familiar with how prana, with how breath is moving through you in this moment. Perhaps observe whether the breath feels deep or shallow this morning. Not trying to alter it, just being curious. And as you pay close attention to your breath, begin to notice perhaps that the breath really has four parts. There's the inhalation, and then there's the top of the breath, that moment when inhalation turns into exhalation. Maybe that moment is fleeting, or maybe that moment is actually a bit of a pause, a bit of a rest in the breath. Simply notice. Then there's the exhalation. And then there's another pause or a switch over at the bottom of the breath. That moment when the exhalation ends and the inhalation begins. Witness those transitions in the breath, those points of stillness at the crest and at the bottom of the breath. Becoming conscious of the fact that there is this moment of stillness in each breath cycle. That moment of recovery. And continuing to keep your heart and mind open to this reality of a four-part breath. I invite you to draw more conscious attention to the top and the bottom by doing a breath that resets your nervous system a bit and tends to bring you into the ventral vagal space, that space of connection. And so at the end of your next inhalation, at the top of the breath, consciously swallow. Even if there's no saliva to swallow, make a swallowing motion. And at the bottom of the breath, hold for a moment. This is not a long hold. This is just a hold that's long enough for your attention to be captivated by the reality that there is a switch over, there is a transition here. If at any point you find yourself gasping for air on the inhalation, you've extended that hold at the bottom of the breath way too long. And then continue to breathe in this way. Inhale, swallow, exhale, and hold. Come fully attuned to your own breath cycle. Allowing the lengths of your four parts to emerge fully. Not trying to synchronize the breath with anything in the outer world. Allowing your breath to be just that, your breath, your inhalation, your swallow and pause, your exhalation, your hold. If the mind becomes distracted in any way, invite it to come back to watching this cycle of the breath, to fully participate with the flow of prana that is moving through your entire being. As you inhale, swallow, and pause, or maybe just pause at this point. As you exhale, and hold, or simply pause. Take 2 to 3 more rounds of breath in this way. And then gently transition back to the natural breath. Maybe other than letting go of the swallowing and the conscious holding, the natural breath and the four-part breath are not so different from each other. Listen to it. With your next inhalation, I invite you to lift your hips high enough so that you can remove the support from underneath you. Slide it out to the side. And then lower your spine down, either rolling down or straight down, whichever feels better for you in this moment. And then before you move anywhere, make a conscious choice about how you will transition to a seat. You have lots of options. You could roll to your side. You could sit straight up. You could do all kinds of things here. So make a plan and then go ahead and transition yourself up to a seat. And once you've found a seat, you can either rest your hands on your thighs or in your lap, or you can bring the palms together at the heart to bow your head to heart center for a moment. And from this place of connection that you cultivated with your nervous system reset breath, invite an intention to emerge for your time on the mat today. If that intention resonates with your next inhalation, seal it into your own heart. And with your next exhalation, breathe it into your community. And then release your hands. Open the eyes if they were closed, and lift your focus. And let's come to standing. All right, so we will begin with a few gentle flows, and then we'll move into some actual yoga actions or Kriyas. So wiggle your way into a mountain pose and consciously ground your feet. Make a connection to the earth. Your nervous system might be quite ready for rooting and grounding. If the releasing breath did its job. And if not, that's okay too. Just do the best you can. And with your next inhalation, lift the arms up to come into extended mountain, and we'll flow with the breath, exhaling the arms back to your side. So your movements may not match mine. I'm talking, so my breath may move in a completely different rhythm than yours. So use your own interoception, your way of sensing yourself from the inside out, to notice how quickly or slowly you would like to move here. Just awaken the shoulder girdle a little bit, to awaken the legs by keeping a nice sense of engagement there. Awakening the core by drawing the pelvic floor up and in, drawing the navel toward the spine. As you flow, maybe adding imagery of pressing the arms through some resistant substance here to engage the arm muscles onto the arm bones. Do that one more time, up and down, and then the next time your arms are up and overhead, keep them there. And then we'll add a little side bend here with the breath, exhaling to the side, clasping the wrist of the opposite arm and switching at the top of the breath, switching the clasp, opening the side body, flowing again with your own breath here. Not trying to match the movements of anybody else you can see on the screen. Maybe even closing your eyes if you can keep your balance. And then as the spine warms up, you can also let the hip move out to the side so that you're making a C-type shape with the entire body, not just waking up the side body from the hip bones to the armpit, but the entire side of the body, the ankle to the wrist. Flow a couple more times. And then the next time you are back at center with the arms at top, you can release the arms down with an exhalation. From here, we will take a little twisting motion. We will inhale the arms up. Exhale into a twist to the right. Inhale the arms back up. Come forward and exhale, twist to the other side. So flowing with the breath here, using the inhale to lift the arms and initiate movement, and the exhale to lower the arms to come deeper into the twist. Flowing with your own breath. Noticing what happens to the breath if the mind gets a little bit confused at first about, okay, how is this supposed to work? When am I breathing in? When am I breathing out? Just noticing. And re-engaging with the flow. The idea is just to bring a little twisting into the spine, a little rotation. Couple more times. And the next time to the left, let that be the last one. And when you've returned back to center, keep the arms there for a moment. Let your breath settle if it became at all dysregulated. And then with your next out breath, release the arm to your side. Then from here, breathe the arms into goal pose or cactus pose. And then as you inhale, make a slide back bend. And as you exhale, a slight forward rounding. And again, use the breath to guide you through a few standing cats and cows here. Feel free to close your eyes if your balance allows. Let yourself feel this little flow from the inside out rather than having the temptation of watching yourself on the screen and watching it from the outside in. Yoga is about finding our inner awareness here. Invite the mind, the body, the breath to all stay integrated in this movement. Oh, this. Take 2 or 3 more, depending on your own breath cycle. And then after your next cat, come back to mountain pose. All right, try your blocks and have them handy at the top of your mat. And we'll add a little bit of motion now. This time you'll inhale the arms up. And then as you exhale, you'll fold forward at the hip joint. So don't be tempted to round the back. You really fold forward at the hip joint. And with the exhale, release yourself into as much of a forward fold as feels good in this moment. With your next inhalation, swan dive back up. Exhale and fold. Inhale and rise. Moving here with your own breath. Initiating the movement from the core, keeping a nice, stable engagement in the core, in the pelvic floor. And if you let the core guide the movement, and if the core is guided by the speed of the breath, you can prevent dizziness. If you notice that you do get dizzy after all, maybe slow it down. Use a couple of breath cycles instead of a single breath cycle to move here. We're only going to do this one more time. The next time you float forward, stay in your forward fold. And now our cycling switches from exhaling to lower deeper into the fold. Yogi's choice, maybe the hands touch the floor, maybe you come into a ragdoll. And then as you inhale, you lift into a half lift, hands are on the shins or on the blocks. So make this your own. You decide, where do you exhale to? And what is your preferred position at the end of the inhalation? And then flow through that, maybe accessing that 4-part breath, pausing at the top and the bottom. With your next inhalation, rise all the way to standing, a beautiful reverse swan dive, all the way up. Draw the hands to the heart for a moment and close your eyes if you feel stable enough to close them. And notice your heartbeat at your thumbs. Pay attention to the change in the breath that may manifest in this moment. This is your nervous system adjusting to the ups and the downs. The challenge of these steady posture changes, even though they were slow, they were demanding for your cardiovascular system. And so your nervous system is responding to that with a faster heartbeat. And so as you stand here, you might notice your system re-regulating itself as the heartbeat once again adjusts to a slower rhythm. That's the beauty of resilience. The ability to speed up when we need to, and then to slow down again when we can. And then release your hands down. We'll take another twisting motion. This one is called knocking on the doors of life. And this is a twisting Kriya. You have choices here in terms of how much you bend the knees, how quickly you move, and where you tap. So in the front, you could tap the top of your chest. In the back, you will tap your adrenal glands. And so I'll show it from the back first. And then you can come with me whenever you feel like you've got it. And you tend to inhale when you move to the left and exhale when you move to the right. And so now you're actually asking your breath to move a little bit faster. And you're coordinating this with the movement in the body. So you can see I'm moving into my knees quite a bit, but you really don't have to do that. Your legs could be completely steady, and the rotation could be mostly in a turn of the hips here. and the shoulders and the spine, of course. Do let the opposite hip move forward so that you're not tweaking your SI joint. And then you decide on the speed with which you want to move here. You could say, okay, I really want to see what I can do, what my edge is. And you could move and breathe very quickly like this. Or you can decide that you really want to take it luxuriously slow. So experiment. Try different variations, speed it up, slow it down, or settle into what feels wise for you in this moment. When you do Kriyas on your own, you can take each one of these actions for 3 to 5 minutes. We don't do that in class, that would take way too long. At least not in an hour-long class, but it's an option. Take about 10 more seconds or so. If you were going really fast, begin to slow it down. If you were going slow, make it even slower. Stop with the tapping, and then just let the movement sort of peter out gently. Bring the palms together at the heart when you feel ready for that. If it feels stable and safe, you might close the eyes to facilitate interoception, facilitate that ability to feel the body from the inside out. Notice your heartbeat. Notice your sense of energy. Notice where you feel pulsation and vibration in the body. You might notice it in your fingertips or the tips of your toes. And then notice how your system re-regulates, how your energy re-grounds, resettles. When you're doing your own practice, you move from Kriya to Kriya based on your inner awareness of when your nervous system is resettled sufficiently to meet the next challenge. In our yoga class, well, we move together. So some of you may be overly ready and some of you may not be quite ready, but let's all release the hands down and refind mountain pose. The next Kriya is another side bend. This one just a little bit more vigorous than earlier. And again, your variation, your choice of how quickly or slowly you move. You inhale as you go left and exhale as you go right, or in the end, maybe the breath just gets quicker and quicker with the movement. The movement's like this. You draw the hand on the side bed, stretching side into the armpit, the other hand reaches to the floor, and then you move side to side. Inhaling, exhaling. So I'm demonstrating one rhythm, but there could be lots of other rhythms. You could go really, really slow. You could go even faster than what I started with. So play with the variations, but don't always just go with your habit, right? Don't always back away from challenge or race right into challenge. Maybe notice what your inclination is and then experiment with the opposite. or just settle into a rhythm that feels perfect for you this morning, that maybe even allows you to close your eyes and then just go with it. Your choice. If you're breathing loudly like I am, maybe that helps you anchor your mind. We'll go for about 15 more seconds. If you're going really fast, this might be a nice time to start slowing it down. And then just invite the movement to sort of peter out. Less movement, just from side to side, and then even that ends itself when it feels right. And draw your hands to your heart. If you feel stable, close the eyes to listen inwards, or keep a nice soft gaze on the floor in front of you. Maybe now your mind already knows what to expect here as your nervous system re-regulates. So there may be fewer stories of confusion or worry or annoyance. I don't know, the Kriyas aren't everybody's thing. But just notice if the mind is stilling in the same way. Your energy is calming and your body is settling. And then release the hand. All right, we'll come back to the blocks. So we'll once again fold forward and start with the hands on the blocks. The feet are a little bit wider than hip distance apart. And ideally the toes point in the same direction as your knees. For me, that means quite an extreme pointing. I have ankle issues, and so my feet are pretty far out. So don't just copy me, just find your own comfort here. And then come into a squat. Your heels can lift. The movement here is that you will exhale as you lift the hips up, and you will inhale as the hips come back down. So I will show it, and you can just come with me whenever you feel like you've got it. And so it's again a movement where you can decide how quickly you want to breathe and move here. It's also a movement where you really want to engage the core and use the power of the core to lift yourself, or you'll really have pretty noisy quadricep muscles tomorrow. If you're just letting them do all the work, they'll be pretty tired later today and maybe a little achy tomorrow. Use your own decisions about whether you want to explore speed and what variation is right for you. We'll do about 5 more of these, depending on the speed that you chose. And last 2. And end in a half lift just for a moment. And then with your next inhalation, rise all the way up, bring the palms together, and once again, come to your heart. Feel your heartbeat here. Notice your breathing. And notice if there's a story in your mind. Kriyas tend to bring up a lot of stories in the mind because they're designed to challenge us. And so if the mind is inclined to jump to, ooh, I don't like this, that may happen here. Or if the mind is like, ooh, this is fun, that may happen here. So just notice if your mind has an opinion. And if your mind can maybe let go of that opinion as the nervous system re-regulates. Because it's okay for the mind to have opinions as long as we don't take them too seriously. That's that old bumper sticker, don't believe everything you think. And by now you might notice that your heartbeat is slowing again, that your breath is re-regulating again. And so let's release the hands. And let's once again come to toward the floor. You can actually remove the bricks from the mat. And we will move into the next Kriya. So I call this rolling cobra. You can experiment here with which body position works best for you. It'll take you a few rounds of this Kriya to really know. For me, it's nice to have my knees a little bit wider than my feet. So it's almost like a child's pose starting position. The hands come forward, and you'll have to judge where the right distance is for you. But the movement is like this. You're going to inhale, and you're going to move forward close to the ground into sort of a mini cobra. And with the exhale, you're coming back, hips toward the heels. They won't necessarily reach the heels. But this is the roll that you're engaging in. So you're rolling yourself toward a little mini cobra. And my feet like to pop up here. Yours might want to stay on the mat. That's perfectly okay. Especially if your knees are closed, you're probably going to not pop the feet up. For me, this is a variation that really feels good in my body. And so play with this. Kriyas are supposed to be joyful too, in the end, right? So that we have this experience of meeting challenge with an open heart and an open mind, and ultimately maybe meeting challenge with a sense of, ooh, fun, I get to try something different. I get to master a new skill or a new challenge. And keep moving, coordinating breath with movement. Inviting the mind to stay engaged in the process. Don't get lost in your thoughts. Don't get lost in judgment. Be open to the flow of life that's moving through you in this moment. Okay, 4 more at my speed, which may be 3 to 5 at your speed. And last one. Ending here in rocks pose, bringing the hands once again to your heart. Noticing your heartbeat. Noticing your breath. Noticing your mind. Anchoring the mind in the breath. Anchoring the breath in the body. Anchoring the body on the earth. Finding connection, integration. And then gently release the hands. And we will take our last Kriya that's active. Start once again on your knees, this time in tabletop, and then bring the hands out in front of you and interlace your fingers. So we're starting in a variation of dolphin pose here. Press into the sweet spot on your ulna, the bone at the bottom of your arm here, so that you're not dumping your weight into the wrist. In fact, your little fingers will float, and your wrists will even float, because your weight is in the forearm, not in the wrist or the hands. And then from here, yogi's choice, you can stay on your knees, or you can lift the knees up. And we'll take this dolphin swing in this Kriya. So it's basically a movement from like a down dog version to a plank version. And you're moving, you're inhaling the hips up, and you're exhaling the hips down. Again, you can do this from kneeling, just as well as you can do it from a fully lifted position. So it doesn't matter. These are really lovely variations. You might play with both of them. Inhale to lift, exhale to lower. Just 30 more of these. Kidding. 4 or 5 more. Take about 4 of mine, and yours might be faster or slower, so. One last one. If you are floating the knees, bring them to the ground, press yourself back to rocks pose. Hands at the heart. You know the drill here. maybe this time as you explore this reset of the body, the nervous system, the mind, see if you can invite a conscious smile to your face. And then gently release the hands to your side. From here, find a seat that's comfortable for you. It really helps to have a lift under the sits bones. So if you have your blanket handy, just give yourself the pleasure of being like at the very edge of that blanket. So I can show this from the side. So that your bum is basically just sliding off the blanket. This just tilts your pelvis forward a tiny bit. I don't know how much that is, 10, 15 degrees. It draws the pubic floor bone toward the floor, and it allows the heart to be open. So this is the point of having something under the sits bones. It could be a wedge too, or a towel, just whatever. And then in terms of your leg position, choose something that feels comfortable for you, and feel very welcome to switch it up if it ends up not being as comfortable as you thought it would be. And we're taking a nice little cool down here where we mix circles, the torso around the legs. And so flow really luxuriously here. It's a little bit like a cat-cow with a twist, in that when you come forward, you're kind of in a cow, and when you come back, you're kind of in a cat arch. But don't overdo that. Really just enjoy the circling of the torso here. You could, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and really let yourself draw inward and sort of make this a very languid, luxurious sort of movement. Maybe even here you can take the variation that involves a smile on your face. That gets your the nerves, the cranial nerves that innervate your face involved, and they're really, really closely related to your vagus nerve. So it tends to be a nice little encouragement to get connected, to get calm. The next time you come forward, switch the fold of your legs. So whichever leg was on one side, switch it up, and then switch the direction of your circles. Staying connected, mind anchored in the breath. Breath anchored in the movement of the body. Body anchored in the earth. In the connection to a greater community, a greater purpose. And then slow it down and let the movement end. Remove the blanket from underneath your sits bones if you use it. And let yourself, have a blanket handy for your head if you use it in Shavasana, and have a block handy before you come onto your back. And then your choice, you can walk yourself down, or you can roll yourself down one vertebra at a time, coming onto your back. And now it's yogi's choice. You can take just a regular supine position here, the knees together, feet apart for now, to release the low back. Or you can take that same little lift that we took at the beginning of class, where you bring a block under the sacrum or a blanket and walk the shoulders underneath you and end in bridge pose here. You could stay here for your entire shavasana if you would like. Or at any point, if you're using the prop under the hips, you can release the prop if it becomes uncomfortable and move into your shavasana position. But for now, whether you're lifted in the hips or whether the hips are on the ground, just take the legs up and shake them out. And then release them down. Close your eyes and just look inward to see if there's anything else you would like to do with your body before you move into Shavasana. Maybe also look inward and see if you want to stay with the sacrum lifted or if you would prefer to be on the ground. Yogi's choice. Wherever you choose to be, that is the perfect place for you in this moment. Invite your body to settle into a deep, deep stillness here. Invite the body to become heavy and to surrender to the force of gravity. Really feel that connection of the body to the earth. And then just as the body is settling and surrendering, invite the breath to do the same. Invite the breath to become soft and easeful. Allow yourself to be the recipient of breath, not the actor that engages in the act of breathing, but be breathed here. Surrendering your breath to the flow of prana through the universe. And then as the breath settles and surrenders, invite the mind to do the same. You were able to observe over and over today how you were able to re-regulate after challenge, how you could re-enter into a space of equanimity in the mind, in the breath, in the body. And so any last thoughts or judgments the mind is offering up in this moment, just simply let them be. Surrender them to this moment. Surrender them to your deeper inner wisdom. And then as the mind too settles and surrenders, invite your heart to be wide open, a recipient of wisdom, a recipient of joy, as we move into a few moments of silence. If your life space allows for it, I invite you to stay in this Shavasana for 10 to 15 more minutes. Your nervous system will thank you for it. Shavasana will offer integration of all that you learned in all of the layers of yourself today. So please stay in your Shavasana as long as you can while I say thank you for practicing with this beautiful group. It's always an honor, a pleasure, and a joy for me to be with you on Wednesday mornings. Thank you so much and take good care.